Then I can walk away from it and action. We're on. Ooh, and we'll turn down the house lights and look at the pretty background. Did you get sound? I don't know what the white stripes might eventually become distracting.
Darth Vader voice converter.
That would be cool. I have a thing. And it has 3 settings, and one of them is you speak into it and Darth Vader speaks out. I used to use it for 312 to demonstrate input processing and output and feedback. Okay, kids, get it.
Where'd it go?
It was there. It was. We all saw it. All we got to do is call WSUIT maintenance. And
is it on the same circuit when you turn the light as the switch you turned off? Could be.
Almost certainly not, because that'd be
I
the
changed my
stupidest thing on the
displays to a
planet.
single,
And I
it
could
was
still
on a
see the
double.
light on.
Oh, okay.
And
Because it went
that's
off
why-
as soon
But
as
it's-
you flipped the switch, it went off.
I probably shut itself off because I took the clone off.
That was.
There it is.
Hey. Accuracy tuning.
Yes.
I'm your IT
What's that
support
mean?
for WSU.
We will
You're
give you an
right.
opportunity now.
Providence.
Oh, it's Dragon Speak, Nuance.
Yes. I told you I brought my dictation device.
Huh? What did you, I'm half deaf. What did you say?
I brought my dictation device.
Oh, cool. Show them.
Not yet.
No, well, no. You're driving. I'm introducing Tiffany Goll, former student, HITM, graduated with distinct honors and maybe made some trouble out of it. But that was then. This is now. Providence Clinical Informaticist. And oh, shut up. I couldn't shut up at Liverpool. Shut up for you.
Well, thank you for having me. I am a graduate from this last year's group of folks, and there was 2 of us, myself and Grace was able to get a job as well in Seattle. So I don't know, is she going to be Skyping in at some point?
Or FaceTime, yeah.
Oh, good.
Oh, yeah, I'm absolutely bringing Grace.
Very good. So she works for a really good company as well, which she'll talk more about, I'm sure, when she presents. But she actually works for a company that was part of the original data migration when Providence went from Meditech to Epic. Now, she wasn't working there when it happened, but that's just kind of another segue for your job titles, is you can be part of data migration. I'm part of what we call implementation. So my role as a clinical informaticist or informatics specialist is a lot of elbow support and initial training for providers and clinicians. So when I got hired at Providence, I was actually a pharmacy technician, so I had been there for 4.5 years. Came up on graduation. I graduated the 14th of June and started my job the 16th of June. So it's really good if you have a foot in the door, just for those easy, quick transitions. And with a business as big as Providence, it's really easy to find a job. I had 2 job offers in Providence. I had one up in Alaska for what they call a trainer, and trainers literally are just designated to training, and you get credentialed and you will get principal trainer certification in specific roles. And so with a principal trainer job title, that's where your money elevation is. If you're a credentialed trainer, it's a little bit lower. Principal trainers are allowed to, if I'm not mistaken, help in the curriculum building. And so for my job title, I'm kind of blended into training.
You didn't go to Alaska, no?
I did not go to Alaska. Thank you, Jesus. And so I do training and provider development right after they're hired. So we bring them on. They go through what we call the MSO, which is the medical staff office, and they transition everyone to us. And we give them a 4-hour session. So we sit with them and we go through Epic. And so what I'm going to show you guys today is some information from our training playground. So there's no live patient data. This is completely HIPAA compliant. Dragon is our dictation device, as opposed to the old phone dictation where someone else would transcribe that for you and then send it back later to medical records. And we still use the phone devices. The difference with the phone device now is it feeds back into Epic, and then the provider has to touch it again to click the sign button that they're approving what was in their notes. And so
Do they edit?
they can edit. There are some options, and actually HIM can put some characteristics, we call them wild cards, into the note, which makes it so you can't sign the note until you satisfy that wild card. And so that's something that we use in our templates, which you can develop in Epic. And so the provider will go and they'll start to put a note on a patient, and they use what we call a smart phrase. So they put a period and then type key verbiage that relates to them or a specific template. And inside of those templates, we have smart lists and smart text, and those are things that pull from patient data within the chart. And so part of my job is helping providers develop their templates, keep their templates up to date. We work under what we call the System of Providence, which includes 5 states, so Washington, Alaska, Montana, Oregon, California, the big one. We just migrated through California and finished all of what we would call our Go Live, so we're done implementing Epic at this point for our large hospital facilities. But Epic and Providence are ever growing together, and so we're acquiring some more facilities in Arizona, which it's not official, so I don't even know what they're called. But Providence is continually moving and continually progressing, and that's something that Epic does well to keep up with us, and something that you as HITM professionals will need to do with the market as well. You need to continue to educate and grow and learn, and that's the nice thing about our jobs is if you're like a knowledge feeder, you just constantly want to be learning and growing, this is a perfect job. Another caveat to this job is you will never leave with an empty desk. So if you need your desk cleaned off by the time you leave work, you're going to have to kind of change your mentality because healthcare doesn't stop when you go home. So it's something to think about too. Any questions before we do some?
So do you put boundaries on yourself so you don't go crazy?
Okay, so that is a very good question. I am responsible for the hospitalists, which is 55 providers, and it also includes the mid-levels, which would be your nurse practitioners and your physician's assistants. And they work in the main tower of Sacred Heart, they work at the psych unit at Sacred Heart, and they work at St. Joseph's Care Center, which is the extended, what do we call it, like a long-term care facility, if you will. And so my hours are Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. I'm on salary, so we get to kind of flex our hours, and we get appointments and meetings in the mornings. Wednesday I had a meeting until 6 p.m. The Wednesday before I had the hospitalist meeting from 5 to 7 p.m. So you do get some flexibility in your schedule, which is really nice. But again, we use our cell phones, our personal cell phones, as our work cell phones because it's much easier for Providence to allocate monies to you in reimbursement than to allocate you a device.
Plus Hillary Clinton. You use one phone for everything.
Yeah, well,
that turns out to be a mistake.
Yeah. Don't send pictures on your phone.
Another word for wise.
Yeah. Who was that? Anthony Weiner? Was that on Twitter?
Weiner, yes.
Yeah.
The former representative or senator.
Yeah. Yeah. So IT is wonderful, but also can tie you up. So we've got some extra tools too, which I'll talk about. And the iPhone or a smartphone device like an Android or your tablets are another element that Epic can touch. And we just launched a new item called clinical imaging, where you can take images of your patients. So you can get a headshot for your demographic screen. You can do wounds, rashes, surgical sites, breaks, anything like that. So vascular surgeons are going to be implementing this slowly, and then wound care, and then we'll kind of keep picking up throughout the hospital as we see improved usage of those. So, but yeah, boundaries are non-existent. I'm just kidding. You do get phone calls at 8 o'clock at night, but typically they're easy to handle. And if they're not, we as a department are on call. We're available 24/7, but we have a little bit of a buffer that they'll call the service desk. So they call our phone number, it routes them to the service desk. The service desk will page us. So you do get some warning. It's not just this random, I need a massive blood transfusion stat. I don't know how to do it. I don't know what I'm doing. And you're sitting on your couch and your laptop's in your car and it's not turned on, so you can't really help them. So you get about 15 minutes to get into the process. And we're on call maybe once a month, and you get a weekend maybe once every 3 months. So you don't get paid extra. Again, you're on salary, but that's pretty.
And they do rotate it, so it's not always you.
Yeah. We do also triage our own phone calls. So one day a month you're working from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. and you triage the phone line. So that's people from the tower, from ambulatory clinics call in. You'll just kind of route the calls appropriately, or you'll do first call resolution. So you'll be the person that solves their problem. We have some other tools available to us so that we can remote in, and I can remote to his little computer if he has the application, and then I can help drive that provider through the necessary steps to complete.
What do you use for remote?
We use Daneware. And Daneware, I can show you, is a pretty agreeable, yeah, you have to have someone on the other end accepting your login. But once you're in, you can do a lot with that provider. You can adjust settings in the background. You can help them adjust their Dragon, which is our dictation device. You can help them move patients through Epic. You can adjust their volume if they're having troubles with it. So it's completely full functional as if you were just VPN'd into your own.
Is there a charge for that software that they actually pay for Providence?
Providence does provision this, so they have to pay for licensing and then they provision it throughout the facility to those hospitals.
It's big, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
I want to double check.
I want to use my big words.
Well, of course, they got money, and everything's gonna be compliant, so everything's gonna be paid for.
Yeah, and they do a lot for us, so it's, sometimes you're like, gosh, I didn't have to use my personal cell phone, but I'm on a plan with other people and they'll pay you $75 a month. Well, if you're on a plan and your bill isn't $75, but you give them the full bill, they'll pay you $75. So, there actually is a good company to work for, so. The only thing that you have to be careful about is if you travel, you typically pay for your travel expenses up front.
And
then
they
they reimburse post.
How long does it
So,
take?
I think it's like a 3-week turnaround, which on some of your big trips could be a couple $1,000, but
Yeah, he was 3 months though, so.
yeah, so it's not bad. We're not complaining. All right, so let's go ahead and I'll show you what Dragon does, and I'm just going to start with that because it's telling me I have to. So,
Because it so wants to.
It wants me to do it. We use this Dragon device. It's sponsored by Nuance, and Nuance also does Siri for your phones. And so this is Dragon Medical is what we license this as, so you can see that in the upper right-hand corner. So this device has a microphone and then a speaker, so you can speak into it, you can have it do playback. Sometimes you can listen to Pandora at your desk because it has a speaker in it.
But you never do.
They never do that. It's loud and annoys people. We have cubicles, so we have to be polite. Cube etiquette. Lots of different programmable buttons. This is almost like a TV remote, so that's kind of nice. It's got a recording device button in the middle, so you can make this what we call, I can't remember the word. We can optimize it and we can make them user specific. So people actually buy into things really well when you can say, I can make this work the way you want it to work. Not just, here's this thing, it does one thing, and you have to do it the way it does it. So that's really nice. So this is a push to talk, or an on and off, or you can put your Dragon to sleep, and it just means it's not going to listen to background noise. So
Go to sleep?
yeah, you can put it to sleep. So
That's
it's
how my Dragon works. Are they all wired?
They are, yeah.
Because you can also do the recorder. Nuance sells a.
So these, when we buy them wholesale, are about $250 because we're buying probably like 100, 200 of them at a time. If you buy them in groups less than that, they're about $400 a piece. And these are a really high quality microphone from what we've been told. You can also get a boom headset or just a boom mic from the desk. And realistically, you can buy a Dragon for personal use. It's like $30 on Groupon every once in a while, and you really don't need a fancy device. This is just, again, we're HIPAA compliant. We're looking for medical diagnoses.
And it's medical vocabulary.
Yeah, and that's the nice thing. So Dragon Medical lets you choose your vocabulary. So what it's doing now is I broke my profile, so I didn't log out correctly, and now I'm logging back in, and it says
You're not going to have to train it, are you?
I am going to train it really briefly, but that's kind of a nice way for you guys to see how it works. So
And also to remember to
log
close out appropriately.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, as many times as we tell doctors that. So it's just saying, let us improve your accuracy. We've got some issues with your profile, so we go ahead and do that. Oh yeah, your profile's ready for usage. All right, good. Then we finish. Oh, it didn't make me do it. That's good.
That is good.
All right.
It would have had you tell it a story.
It would have. And so what it does on every computer that a provider logs into for the very first time, it imprints. And so it puts a local cache folder on the desktop itself. And then when that provider gets back on, they can log in offline and they don't have to wait for the server to pull down their information.
Cache.
I know, we call it a cache, and they make me say that, and it's just,
Wrong.
it's atrocious. I'll call it cache for them.
Okay.
The first
They
couple
make you
times I
say
heard it, I was
cache?
just like, oh my god, why are we saying that?
We're mispronouncing the word.
We're a bunch of nurses, except for this one.
Yeah.
So, nothing against nurses, but
No.
no.
But cache is something that's to your credit, and a cache is a computer term for a buffer.
All right, so actually I'm not going to walk in as me.
Well, it won't be past your, by the time I'm done.
So I'll just walk you guys through a
so
Okay.
basically she's on this every night dictating.
Yeah,
So
does
I
she
haven't
come
heard of
into Providence to do services, or does she have Epic in her office?
She has Epic in her office, and of course she's a provider, so she works in Alpine Orthopedics is fine
Oh,
on
yeah.
the other side, so Dr. Goll, so she's in over there and she works through me too, but that's a different system altogether, so.
Hopefully you prefer this one.
She does, and
Yeah, Epic's hard to see because they want you to go to Minnesota to pay $1,000 a day to see it.
Well, and the thing with Epic too, you have to remember is it's public, or it's not publicly traded, it's a private company, and that gives them a lot of leverage to be able to say, this is the product and this is the max that you can change in it, because we need it to be as static as possible so that it maintains its integrity, and then, you know, you're representing the company well, so. All right, so this is what we call your dashboard for an inpatient provider, and so this is your patient list. So the nice thing about a patient list, oh, where's your camera? There it is.
It's okay.
Patient list.
It'll hear you even if
It'll
it
hear
doesn't
me.
see you.
The patient list gives the provider access to be able to see the whole system list. So we are on what we call the Washington-Montana region, and so we'll only see patients in any Washington or Montana facility. This is training, so you're going to see just a hodgepodge of facilities. But up top is what we call the My List section, and then providers can have all my patients. So as they assign themselves to your patient's treatment team, that's where they'll be located. And then if you're on your My List, whatever little lists you have under your heading, so you can see it's just all my patients right now, they'll show up here on
Who
the
are
right
bogus
hand.
patients.
Yeah, these are all bogus patients.
Avocado.
Yeah, Frank Avocado. I am signed in as, I can't see it, but I bet you I'm like Chris Cucumber or something. They've named all the providers with vegetables, and then they name nurses with like fancy places. This is kind of funny. But so we'll kind of get out of this because this is just the basic part of Epic. But what you guys want to see is what happens when I need to help a provider or when I need to understand workflow. And so I've just double-clicked into a patient's chart. So this is what we call an encounter-specific chart. So this is encounter-specific. It means that there's a serial number to why they're here today or why they've been here for a week. The MRN number is your medical record number. This is like a social security number, but it's your main number for all encounters within Epic. And so this will follow you your entire existence through Providence, and then this CSN number over here is the one that's going to change for each serial visit that
Encounter.
any encounter that you have. Yeah. So basically, across the top you're going to have activity tabs. So this upper left-hand side, and so you've got your summary, your chart review, results review, synopsis, all of these things that you can use. So the main tools that they're going to use immediately as a provider or nurse are going to be this provider overview or nursing overview. So we'll switch over to the provider overview. So as a system, they've decided, and I mean Providence when I say system, they've decided that across all 5 states, this is a general basis of knowledge to treat your patient quickly and efficiently. And so this doesn't mean this is the only place they look, but this is that initial space to be able to pull out key details so you can see.
So avocado's got hypertension, diabetes, hyperthyroidism, and we have no idea what that is.
High cholesterol.
Oh, the poor guy.
Yeah.
Is that overview the same despite specialty?
So when you specialty, so if you think provider, you're always a provider, so it's not specialty specific. It's discipline specific though, so nursing, provider, respiratory therapy has an overview. We have what we call a professional exchange, so anyone below provider level is inside of this professional exchange so that all of those extra disciplines can actually see what everybody else is doing instead of you get yours, I get mine. So,
But was your question, would this change if I logged in as a respiratory?
yeah, if you're a respiratory therapist, so specialty-wise, if you're, say, an ENT doc, your overview provider is the same as your cardiothoracic surgeon. It's the same overview. Yeah. So basic level medical providing.
Oh, and it's in Celsius. That's good because we don't know whether this person.
Everybody hates that.
I hate it.
Everybody hates that it's in Celsius. And there's always more than like 5 places to look for one thing in Epic. It's actually only like 3, but it seems like it's
Too many.
Too many.
Oh, the weights and kilograms.
Yeah.
Yay!
We're
Because
very
Epic sells elsewhere.
But science is very metric. That's
Oh, no, it's a good idea, it's just I don't know whether that's 98.6 or not.
Does it give you the option to change it?
It does not, and that is one of the large complaints. That's a heavy complaint around the system right now. So if we look at a couple of these reports, you can see up here in the drop-down box, and Epic is really small on the screen, so normally you have a bigger, what we call landscape, you've got more real estate to work in. But so if I come over here and I search for a different report and I look up vitals, you can see that it's got this like graph in Celsius, last day, and then it's got vitals/onc. So this is for oncology, so they can follow their patient. So if you click into this, it gives you a more drilled down
He is
report.
running a little bit of a
Yeah,
fever.
yeah. So anything in red or with an exclamation point means that it's abnormal, but it doesn't mean it's abnormally high. It just means it's abnormal.
It's
So
out
you
of
go
bounds.
either way. Yeah. Just says, hey, look at me. So
And this is the newer version of Epic that rolled out just recently.
this is 2014. We got it in February, so we were in
I haven't seen
2010.
both ones last week.
Yeah, yeah.
This is actually nice.
a lot of really nice customization features, and it's got a lot. It's funny. This cracks me up. The themes. There's high noon.
Oh, how about Serenity?
But High Noon has a sheriff, and
Okay.
he's holding a gun, and then your Epic
Let's
button
have
has
it.
a badge on it. I don't know if you'll be able to see him in this side screen. He's right behind here, and you can't see him. But there's my sheriff's badge up here.
Right, and you're a gunslinger.
Yeah. So that's your summary. It's where you can find reportable data on your patient that's pulling from the chart without having to get into the areas where information is added into the chart. All of these, we call it the index report, the report of reports, because it shows you what is capturable data and what a report will populate for. So, especially during the flu season, we use these micro results quite frequently, because this is where your influenza A positive results would come through. We've got a lot of C. diff issues at the hospital right now, so this is where you'll have your positive C. diff results, things like that. So it's a pretty quick way to see what did my result come back as, and is it high. But you also have results review, and this is where you can see results for your patients. This patient doesn't have any results.
That's because he's fast on me.
They find a sicker patient. I think this liver laceration has some white blood cells. The training patients are always kind of hit or miss. So
Liver laceration, how in the hell did that happen?
a sword fight.
Yeah.
Perfect. So this is our results review panel, and so you can see it's picking up anything that's resolvable data that pulls into Epic. And so even down here you have your imaging, and then you have the
And his
ECG.
Red blood cell count's probably low, but out of range, as is his hemoglobin.
And so, yeah, and who are we as non-medical or medical professionals to be able to remember what our reference range is? So Epic made you a button. So you can always see, and of course this is training, so it doesn't have...
But it would. It would give you the actual...
Yeah, you'd have an actual reference range, scientific. I believe it pulls out up-to-date or Cranes, one of the two. So it's always scientific, so... Yeah.
But avocado, he's a good guy.
Yeah, any of our avocado guys, they're pretty sick. And the more that we get into these patients and mess around and add drugs and diagnosis, the worse they look. So I have jumped into, I'll back out here. So I'm in general diagnostic radiology imaging, and so this is a chest x-ray that's portable. And this little paper here, there's one up here too, just tells you there's a new report. And so these are something that are sourced out through Inland Imaging, and we actually just had Inland Imaging purchase our radiology department, so all of our Providence radiology staff
Is
members
outsourced to
had to
Inland
get rehired into Inland Imaging. It's a
At
big
a
deal.
reduced rate.
I don't really know if they got
Pamela did that. They made everybody apply for their jobs again and paid them
It was nerve-wracking because we had 90 employees, and I don't know that they had 90 spots. But for the most part, the building didn't burn down. So
Not for you.
Inland Imaging will take the images of the patient, they'll source that out to a radiologist, and then the narrative comes back, and that's what you see here in the middle. And so they're
Deb
just,
Gurney's the RN in charge. Can we see pictures or no?
I don't think so.
But you could if it
You
was
could,
real.
yeah, and so you would click this imaging hyperlink, and we use Stentor, so GE, centricity, yeah. And so what it does is, again, that's just another provisioned application. We click on the hyperlink, and it actually opens Stentor in another window, and so it produces your images. But they still have the ability to go to Internet Explorer, go into their webpage.
You guys run Windows 8 on at all?
We have just upgraded our ambulatory
Stanford's working
settings.
with it.
Well, but to Windows
Oh,
7.
7,
We
okay.
were on XP, and yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's,
So, XP, for those of you that don't know, Microsoft stopped supporting it for security updates, and so it became kind of irrelevant. And it's not just a problem for the medical field. There were actually quite a few ATMs that used to run on XP.
Was
I
it,
don't know.
was it Vista before or after?
it was after.
After.
But it was horrible too.
That was,
Oh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
until you get to 7, you get
it's
no
every
love.
other operating system, was with 98 ME, and we stuck to XP. Then, yeah.
7's actually been a real high performer for us just because we have a lot less, I don't want to say data loss, but a lot less sluggishness.
You don't want to say data loss, because that would sound horrible.
But it didn't work. It didn't work connectivity-wise as well with Dragon and things like that. And actually, Epic 2014 wouldn't work with our current version of Dragon before we got to Epic 2014. So we had this big push of we're upgrading you from 10.1 to 12.5. So not only did we jump 4 versions in Epic, but we jumped like 2.4 versions forward in Dragon. And when you do that and you don't test it, you have some issues. So they actually launched Oregon the day before us. So they did this whole, we're going to launch Oregon, or was it, oh no, it was Oregon. We're going to launch all of Oregon.
Is it the smallest?
No,
Well, I would
Montana
pick
is
the
probably the
smallest.
smallest. But they launched all of Oregon onto the server and they moved everyone to 12.5.
And it worked perfectly.
And it was so that they would have a day worth of buffer to figure out the kinks, and then they'd throw us the next day. Well, when they did that, they overloaded the servers to their max capacity, and they started failing. And so, we have what we call a major incident, and so Providence produces an MI, and they send out a bunch of emails and overhead pages, and they let people know, Dragon's down, let's use this instead, or use these type of.
But the next day, you had all that solved and rolled out to the rest of the...
We actually are still like getting out of the crippled phase. We're in the rehab phase. I'm just being candid because I used to go to school here, and you don't get this when you're in
Well, not only that,
Oh,
as a
no.
thought experiment, how does that sound? You got 38 hospitals up and down the West Coast, and you're going to do these 2 things at the same time with no sandbox, no testing. Good luck,
At
go get them.
our campus singly, we had 3,500 Dragon using PCs.
Yeah.
3,500.
So it's not that big a deal.
No,
No, not at all.
In the tower. I like the tower. Is Jeff Johnson one of your guys?
I don't know who that is.
Hospitalist. He must be working for St. John's. He used to be my
I was gonna
friend
say,
in
yeah,
the
he's not on
broadcast.
my hospitalist group, so he's probably a Rockwood guy, but yeah, so Dragon we're remediating, because when you go through these issues, we're not IT to the level of, ooh, what's in this component, what's this hardware failing for, what do I do here? We're on the background saying, I'm sorry that your Dragon isn't working, you're providing good customer service, you're giving them options, you're saying, here's the paper form to call the dictation service on the phone. But you don't want to do that either, because that has downstream effects too, because then it's not live in the patient chart. You have to wait 24 hours for it to get in, so that's not the safest
Scan
bet
it in
either.
OCR?
I think because our transcription is outsourced, and just because we have a major incident doesn't make them go faster. They're there for reliable data, and they're going to go at their pace, so that makes it kind of sketchy, but not in a bad way. It's just when you have things like this go down, you've already got providers that don't like any of this, and then you give them this, and they start to like it, and then it breathes fire at them, and so, but one of the things to remediate Dragon, we actually have a SWAT team, that's what we called it, next week, and we're looking at putting a local server in. So when you look at how Providence outsources servers and data warehouses and things like that, we have a server, it's called Savvy. I don't know if that's a place or if that's what our warehouse is called, but it's not here. And so because we're with IRM, all of our big tubes and wires pass through IRM before they get to us, even though they're not our IS system anymore.
IRM.
Inland IRM. It's INHS.
Oh.
So Inland Northwest Health Systems, and then IRM is like their subdivision. I shouldn't call it IRM, it's INHS. But INHS, because they control our pipes in a sense.
Still.
Yeah.
my doctors.
Yeah.
It's going
So-
away.
It's weird, but what do you do? So what happens is Epic and Dragon are running. You ping out to the server to get your Dragon profile, but it doesn't go directly. It's IRM, goes over here, goes to Sadie,
Goes to Barbados, yeah.
Yeah, and so it gets lost, and that's part of the problem. Our downloads for logging into Dragon are supposed to be 80 seconds max. They were 15 minutes long. And when your provider is going patient room to patient room, sitting down, waiting to dictate, and they can't get logged in,
And this is only a $500,000 a year guy or gal you're talking about.
yeah.
So the time's not really worth that much.
Well, the $500,000 guys, but
They have a transcriber, I
our
suppose.
cardiothoracic surgeons have mid-levels that do most of their note-taking. So our $1 billion guys. But no, I mean, just in general, part of our job and part of what you're going to be doing is consistent change management. You are constantly going to be doing change management, customer service relations. You're going to be turfing and fielding pissed off people. I'm sorry to say it that way, but people are going to learn to love you because you will be able to provide them a service and an answer. And sometimes it's not the best answer, but it's better than sitting on a help desk phone waiting for somebody to talk to you. One of the quick lessons learned, I worked at Holy Family as a pharmacy technician during our Goll Live, so in 2013, and ScribeStat had come through and they had sent emails and they asked Eastern, can you send this out to students and say, hey, there's some locum part-time jobs to help launch Epic. Well, I was second year in this program, and in this program you gotta be making your own path because a piece of paper with HITM on it might not be enough initially for those high-level jobs. And so I worked 3 days a week there, 4 days a week in my real job, and when you are implementing software that changes you from DOS-based at function keys or from a paperless system to an interoperable EHR, you can never blow smoke at anybody, ever. So never act like you know more than you do. I needed somebody to hook up my Wi-Fi here. I'm not going to say, oh, here, let me figure it out because I'm in IT and I don't want to look bad. I don't know how to do it.
And it's not
Everybody needs
worth
help
the
at
20
some
minutes
point.
it'll take.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
far prefer you to share with us.
Yeah, when you, I mean,
Now, all of that work you did that turn out to be worth it?
yeah, yeah.
I want you to tell them that.
Here it is. No, I'll just be, frank, I was making $18.50 as a pharmacy technician, and I got an $11 an hour pay raise when I switched jobs. So
That's not double.
No, but it's close. So it's good, and it pays for itself. This degree can be challenging, especially if you don't have a healthcare background, but you will very quickly gain one. You get wheels on the ground in these positions and they run you, and you get tired and you can get frustrated, but you have to be eager for the change in healthcare. And I hate to say that I like my job because it pays well, but some days I sit in my cubicle and I'm like, why am I here? Because nothing's happening. And then you have days where you are there and you just want 10 more hours in your day because you have so much to do. And so it's a roller coaster ride, but you are fixing things that impact patient care, and you're making patient satisfaction higher, making patient safety rates higher. This is a really good place to be.
And your dry cleaning is all outsourced now, and you don't.
I'm actually such a college student still. I'm throw my colors in my whites and
Oh, man.
soap.
I know, it's hard to adjust to more money.
It is. But this is my little finance tip. As you get a new job, if you already have a retirement plan or if you're getting one, allocate money into that before you see your first paycheck. I doubled my contribution and I put about $600 a month into retirement.
Do they match?
They match at 4.5% for my Providence, and then the other 6% is a Roth IRA so that I can take it when I want it.
Right, but you've got to take the match.
Yeah.
And they match your Roth too?
They don't match my Roth, so I put 12% in, 4.5% is matched at the Providence level.
If you do nothing else, you've got to take the match.
Yeah,
Because that's
you've
just
got
free
to.
money laying on the ground.
Yeah. And to be honest, $600 sounds like a lot,
But it isn't anymore.
but it's not anymore when you make a significant amount of money and you're mindful with your money, and you don't see it on your pay stub. So think about that.
And you don't pay taxes.
You don't, yeah. The Roth, I pay tax on,
Yeah.
but the other one I don't pay tax on. So
When you're old and rich, that's
yeah.
when that pays.
when I need to go to Hawaii for funsies, just kidding.
We all need
Haven't
that.
gone on a vacation in a while, so. All right, so anyways, let's put a note in a chart. navigation device. So I won't go through every single button with you, but this is generally, we come in and we show the provider, this is where you look for things. This is how you tell what's happening with your patient, what you need to address on your patient. So, and then like, we have some key indication factors for where am I at in this chart? Because you could have a patient that's been here for 4 months and they have results out the door. So these are bolded results, meaning you haven't time marked them yet, so you haven't looked at this. So they have this time mark or like a bookmarking feature so that you can say, all right, I looked at this, and then they become unbold, so the next set of results will be bold. So there's a lot of like kind of,
That's cool.
yeah.
But the reds are still red.
Reds will remain red because regardless of where your patient's at now, they were abnormal then.
Yeah.
So lots of graphing tools available. This patient doesn't have, I think, oh they do. So this is a really nice sell. I like to say we're selling things to our providers because you need buy-in. You're not actually giving money and you're not actually giving them anything, but you're training them.
Well,
you
no,
need them
they're
to
hostile on the
trust.
front end, so you got
Yeah. Yeah, you need them to know that what they're doing is going to get them money. So this is the graphing tool. So we're going to graph our white blood cell count. And I'm sorry, my screen's just so
not big enough.
small. But you can see here that you can do trending data, and this is really important for our infectious disease providers, our oncologists, our orthopedic providers.
Oh, I smell infection.
Yeah,
And so would,
it's trending upwards, as we would say.
that turns out in the stock
Yeah.
market, that's good, but in the white blood cell count, not so good.
But yeah, so it's lots of functionality in Epic that can provide intuitive information to your providers. So
Have any of you seen Meditech? No, maybe.
I've seen it, yeah.
I've only played with like once, but what I do is I get like the citrus receiver, the log, and once I get to the screen where they can log in, that's pretty much the end of my.
It would be like being in 1979 and having somebody
Reminds
beat
me
you
of
to a,
I don't think
6
they
at
can get
plus.
into it anymore, but the
Oh.
one that we were on, so anything below 6.0 is like a F function.
yeah, it's DOS.
Yeah, and then anything above 6, they've mirrored what Epic does. So they made it kind of
But not
Windows
as well.
friendly. You know, it doesn't have as many bells and whistles, and it's not as flashy. We saw this last year at HIMSS, and it's kind of blue and grayscale. It's not super exciting. It doesn't have a sheriff. It doesn't have a
Hey,
rock
that shit
star.
makes a difference though, because you get a badge and
This went rocket. It has a guitar player in the background, and we didn't have so many buttons.
bigger screen.
Oh, we can't make it go any higher, but yeah, you know, honestly, people like to personalize because it gives them some control, some autonomy. Doesn't mean that they get to choose what goes into Epic, but we're also training that to go the other way. We're giving them input. We're giving them stakeholder time to say, this is my problem, and clinical informatics gets to hear the problem. We interpret it, so we're going to do some engaging and some feedback, and we're going to take notes, and we potentially will write up a draft and then present it back and say, hey, can you check this out? Did I do it right? Is this what you actually mean? And then we submit this into the eco process, so Epic something optimization. There's the C means something. But that's what we do, and then we vet it. We go through governance, and we do a lot of vetting, and those are words that I hate, and I don't like to hear outside of work, because it eats up your day. You have to talk to analysts, you have to talk to what we call user group members, we have to talk to clinical practice guideline
What about
specialists.
legal?
Legal likes to shoot you emails when you have what we call Quantros reports, so that's where we file all of our near misses, so med near misses, our actual misses,
What's a mess?
non-intended surgical complications. You get a lot of things into
That doesn't sound good at all.
patients. Well, it can be as simple as this isn't simple, but a patient discharged on an anticoagulation medication for the first time, and they don't get a referral to an anticoagulation clinic. That's viable for a Quantros, because very likely that patient's going to show up to the
Again.
anticoagulation center or to the ED, so they're going to show up with a bleed, or they're going to show up and they're going to say, I thought I had an improvement, and they're going to go, we don't know who you are. So those are actually work groups that I've been a part of. And I know that we don't do necessarily a lot of things in this program that say project management, but holy guacamole, you are project managing. I am part of an infusion work group right now, and the owner or manager
That's a
a year
plan?
to fix this. But it's a work in progress and it takes time. So anyways, yeah. So if we jump into notes, not that. This is Note Writer, I guess I will show you that. So what it's doing is it's asking me to choose a note type. And so it's saying, hey, are you rounding? Are you admitting a patient? So is this a history and physical, or is this a progress note? Is this a discharge summary? Is this a death summary? What are you doing? And so in Note Writer, we'll pick that it's a progress note. And then this is telling us that there are basic templates. So we'll just choose an adult progress note template. And it'll take a second to load. Note Writer is really great for your really savvy, clicky providers, or for your non-savvy typey providers. They don't like to type, but they know how to click. And what you do is this is subjective, so we're going to go through and we're going to do a review of systems, and please correct me if I'm mistaken in this, but the subjective is, what are you seeing? Objective is more, what are you
Measuring.
What are you measuring? What are you hearing? So what do you see externally, and then what is it actually? Assessment and plan is the next part. So if you've ever heard SOAP note, subjective, objective, assessment, and plan. So assessment and plan is where we're going to go through and we're going to say, all right, I've assessed my patient. What's my plan for my patient? What are my findings? What are my actions? So subjective, we could go through here and we could say, all right, they're short of breath. They had chest pain. They have anxiety.
Self-report.
Yeah. Kind of self-reporting, but yeah. I think self-reporting is a good way to say it.
Wait, you can check me on that.
So when you hover over a name, so you can just start typing. So chest pain, you can say acute onset. And so now you can see it has like a little note. When I hover over it, it tells me, oh, we put a note on this. Anxiety, you could say, you could type something in there. And as we're typing, my note, which is another tab up here, starts putting all of the button clicks and all of the little messages. So you can see my message here in parentheses. It starts feeding your note. And so you don't have to be typing in your note. You don't have to be spell checking in your note, because you are literally just populating your note. You're just clicking through here, deciding what's pertinent for your patient, pop into objective. All right, what am I documenting? What did I see? Blah, blah, blah. And then assessment and plan. So when you get to your note, you can see it's just filling in. It's giving you lots of detail, talking about your patient. So if we come to the top, this is part of the template that we selected initially. Anything in green is what we call refreshable. So as you work on this note, you can pin it and come back to it later, and maybe some things have changed in your patient's chart. So maybe their labs have changed, or their meds have changed, or whatnot. You hit the refresh button up here, and
Nothing will change because this guy
pull in
didn't
new
change.
data.
But
Yeah, exactly. So one of the wildcard features that we have, which there aren't any in this note.
I see it.
But so what I'll do is I'll just throw 3 asterisks in here. So this is our wildcard. This is our stop what you were doing, do not sign your note because you're not done with it clause, essentially. So with Dragon, hopefully mine is programmed. We do a lot of editing with our own devices so that we can figure out what's wrong with someone else's, but we have what we call an F2 button. So here we are being Meditech-like, and we're hitting our F2. This is our search button, so if I hit F2, do you see how it moved down? So I'll do that one more time. It's going to locate your wildcard and highlight it so that as you start speaking or typing, it's cutting it and typing what you have. So with my little dragon, if I don't have mine. Normally what we'll do is we'll program a button. Would we like to program a button?
Nah, let's talk.
Oh, okay.
I mean, you'd like to program a button. It's obvious.
There
But
you go. It's straight. Alright, so let's keep down here. So Dragon's rule is don't talk at me, talk to me. So if you talk at it and you talk too close, it's just like a regular microphone. You can need a lot of feedback and bad verbiage. So 3 to 5 inches from your mouth, you are talking as if you were talking to a friend. You're not yelling, you're not frustrated, you're not dictating it to a phone, to a transcriptionist, and you're talking really fast, your patient's emulating well and waiting and moving on, going home, blah, 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 because Dragon won't hear it. So it'll pick up what it wants to hear, and you'll have a really wonky sentence. So, okay, so laceration of the patient. Patient tolerated surgery well, is coming out of sedation, recovering in PACU. Period. New line. Discharge patient when mom shows up to take patient home. Period. New line. New line. Prescriptions were e-prescribed to Walgreens in Spokane, Washington. Patient to pick up on way home. Start medications for pain management as soon as possible. So it does a pretty good job.
That's pretty fast.
It's pretty thorough.
Yep.
You can change your speed settings so you can make it type faster and listen less. You can change your accuracy setting instead of speed so it listens better, type slower. But for the most part, 12.5 has given us a lot of resiliency. It's brought back the I like Dragon. And so,
Does it underline things it thinks are misspelled or autocorrect them?
so this is kind of funny. New line. Hippopotamus. See, that it got it. New line. Hydrochlorothiazide.
Yeah.
See, it didn't get it. Delete that. Hydrochlorothiazide. Select that. So if you say select that,
It
then
learns.
you get your choices. So if it's not any of these, you can choose to spell that if you don't see your choice. And at the top here, so say I actually said hippopotamus. Hippo. We'll just hippo it. Here's my hippopotamus. You can play hydrochlorothiazide. Play it back to yourself. You can train it. So you can say it again. Hippopotamus. Hippopotamus. And it changes your word. So it's hopefully it doesn't think hydrochlorothiazide is hippopotamus now. But it's user specific, that won't happen to anybody else. So Dragon does a really good job. As you can see, this is a really fine example of Dragon working. So if I come down here, oh, I keep turning my phone off.
The only weird thing is you've got to do the period. You say new line, I say new paragraph. But talking that way and talking a little slower and more distinctly, comma, is what makes the quick brown fox jump. Yeah. So it's a little different than just yakking.
Well,
But
and
the but there's so much bang for your buck. I don't type anymore.
you have these options which are really great. You actually have, I have to figure out where it is.
You kind of do that with Siri too. With
Well, Siri is this.
Yeah.
It's all nuance. Although Apple didn't, I don't think they've officially copped to that yet. I'm surprised they didn't buy nuance.
It is interesting to learn something.
They do have the money.
Do the providers at Providence, do they have a choice on whether they use Dragon or not, or do you just say this
so
is your?
it's not an issue of if you use Epic, you use Dragon.
Right.
It's more an issue of efficiency. You've got young, savvy, super good typists. You've got old, savvy, super good typists. I've got like a 70-year-old surgeon that refuses to use Dragon because he just cruises.
Right.
Okay.
Who?
So,
What does he cut on at 70?
I don't know. I mean, hopefully faces. But I mean, you've got such a variance of skill, and your young providers. I trained a provider yesterday that's maybe 40, and he'd never used Epic. He'd only used Meditech, and he turns to me and he goes, "I'm really going to need Dragon." I'm like, "Okay, all right.
Cool.
You're not a good typer. I get it." There are a lot of things that I wasn't good at before I started this job, and so this is what I was looking for, auto formatting. So you've got a lot of choices in here. So like this right down here is the automatic add commas and periods, and that's where we have to be careful with our providers because their speech isn't very fluent because they're doing a lot of like, all right, what was that laugh out here? Okay, this and this, and what was that, and this and this and this. We have a provider that has a bit of a mumble to him, and so he would say, patient is allowed to do respiratory or rehabilitation therapy. But when he would say and then do, Epic thought it said undo, and so it would erase his last phrase.
Boy, he wouldn't be irritated by that.
Yeah.
Oh my
about that. And so we had to train Dragon what undo sounded like and what do sounds like. And so...
What if somebody stabs him with a hypodermic and he says, fuck?
Actually, you can curse for days. You can curse for days in here, and it doesn't... Shit.
Pretty mild.
Crap.
It really goes out of its way not to let you do that.
It's like, this isn't happening, honey. We're not cursing in our notes. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's obviously not saying what I was saying, but it's not going to say what you were saying, essentially. So,
Because that shouldn't be in the note.
yeah, because you really can't say what in the notes.
If you gotta
But
go, you go.
this is the nice thing about Dragon.
If you gotta go, go.
Okay. I'll be fine for another 15 minutes.
I need her to stay because this is her onboarding training.
Well, I gotta tell you, this real life is a good thing, and hearing about how it actually is a good thing.
Yeah.
And a gal like this hates to leave, but only has so much time in her life.
She knows how to find me. And she's going to, like, Cinderella land for IT.
Yeah.
So.
And did you bring your business cards?
No.
But if you send me what you're willing to share, I will share it out.
Okay, yeah. I was just going to say, Dragon can be used in your orders field as well. Tylenol. I think, too, if you say, like, injured, I think I was going to say it, no.
Hydrocodone.
Delete that. Hydrocodone.
Oh, it knew that.
It knows that.
Yeah.
Demerol. No, it knows that too.
Morphine. Let's just get to it.
So anyways, this is the really large scale learning curve in Epic. It's just that there is so much in Epic. And you're not in Meditech now where you're just like, I'm going to enter orders. And you just have one little space to enter orders. Which a lot of doctors didn't enter their own orders. They wrote them on paper and scanned them to the pharmacy. And so that's a really hard habit to break. And you've got a lot of, I call it like reverse policing. Pharmacy is less apt to help their providers now because their providers need to learn. In Meditech, they were more apt to help their providers because the providers were writing them really crappy orders. And so it's kind of like this back and forth. You know, some providers and pharmacists have a super good relationship, and they'll go and they'll fix something for a provider, or you know that provider can call and say, "Hey, this is messed up, help me." But we're getting to this trend where people are just getting to the annoyance point. We've been here for a year. You need to figure it out. And then they send messages to us because we're training, we're your elbow support. And so we become the police. I like to call us the counselors more than the police because we do a lot of hand-holding, we do a lot of ego smoothing. You know, we understand that your job is hard and that you're very busy and that you don't like this functionality, but let me show you a different way to do this. And if this doesn't suit you, then we're going to need you to keep working in the same manner you were, but we'll look into optimizing this for you.
It's very hard to grab a rhinoceros and walk them the way you want them to walk, and it takes a lot of finesse.
You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make a horse drink. That's what we kind of talk about. And we do a lot of, like, you can teach a man to fish. Something like that. You bring a man to fish, or you can teach a man to fish. And we like to teach people to fish. So, we got a lot of weird things. There's a guy that I work with, and his motto is, slow is smooth, smooth is fast. And that's a military motto, from what I've heard.
But it's so
really
true.
efficient. And we just did our first analysis, and they're color-based, so you've got green, blue, red, and yellow, and you've got rational, socialized, and instinctual. And what that relates to is when you're in your I guess I could draw it, when you're in your social area, sorry, now we're doing how to work with people nicely. This is part of the second part of the lesson. So this is rational.
Any of these work?
Okay. They're sitting close. So rational, socialized, instinctual. So this is kind of like what you need. This is how you were raised and the things that you're used to. This is what you need. This is kind of how you interact, and then this is what you actually like to do. And so what happens is when someone works with you, they're that away. When someone's working with you and they want to talk to you, they need to look at your socialized dimension first because they need to know how to connect to you. And once they connect to you, so they work up here and they're working you and they're like, oh, she likes data. The other person likes interaction and quick fix and action. I like data. So if you come to me and you're like, Tiffany, I need you to do this now. I'm gonna be like, no. Why? Who says that we're supposed to do this? But if you come to me and you say, hey, our chief medical informatics officer said that we should do this because of this, and this is the timeline, and these are the data points, I'm gonna be like, okay, let's talk about it. That's connecting. So you connect, I commit because I like that you brought me data and that makes me happy, and then I contribute. And so the funny thing about me is that down in my dimensions, they're on a scale like this, and it goes out to 0.5, and you can fill in your shape. And my shape is kind of like this.
Now, where did you learn this?
This is part of Providence. They paid for us to go to this class and learn how to be nice to each other.
No, that's
They make us be nice to each other as well. But this goes well, and this makes sense for incoming, but you have to think reflexively too. I need to know how to connect to people that I like data, and they don't want to hear my elevator speech about chronic this or chronic that, or this many incidences of this, or Quandros reports put 2,000 blah, blah, blah. They want to hear why and when. When are we doing it? Why are we doing it? Let's do it. So that can kind of irritate me because I really want to tell you why, all the details. But you have to think reflexively, why is this important? So this is my green, which is I like things based off of history, and I like data, and this is my analysis, and then this is your sociable, and then this is your action. And so on the opposite side, so up here in rational, what I contribute back is more like this. It's
You're not OCD, are you?
something like this. It's opposite. It's I like to act, and I like to contribute, but I'm not as worried. This is actually really small. It's I'm not as worried about data anymore. I just want to have action. So it's kind of weird, but good companies that want to help their employees prosper will start giving you this kind of stuff and be like, we want to groom you and make you worthwhile for us. What else was I going to show you? Do we really want to see last year's HIM, or I keep calling it HIM, HIMS pictures?
A little bit. That'd be a nice way to end.
Okay.
You can go out with fun.
Can I shut this off for a second?
What do you mean? Oh, yeah. Yeah. Leave that screen.
My Facebook is less professional than I am.
Your Facebook's
Because that's where I'm
fine.
a
It is
person.
fine.
No, it's really not bad. It's just that my
Is it a niece?
Yeah, I have a picture of my niece.
No, you have many pictures.
Just one.
Oh.
I have an actual one niece, and she's 2, and then my cousin has 3 children, a 6-year-old, a 2-year-old, and a 2.5-month-old. And so
Who brought the cookies?
Help yourself. The Girl Scouts are so cute. I cannot resist them.
I know. Even
It's
though it's a
terrible.
horrible idea.
So please, help yourself. Anybody in the class.